But the thing that is more distinctive about the community campaign is to also talk about the human rights aspect, which is not so much about the pay conditions and services and jobs of people who already work in the service. It's about what kinds of companies do we want to give away our public services to, and what are the implications of that. Now, we know that in this region, at least 3 of the companies are just infamous for their human rights abuse. If there was a global agenda of who was winning the prizes for the most abusive and private sector torturers, those 3 companies would be winning that kind of agenda. KBR, Serco and G4S are companies that not only here but in many other parts of the world are known to abuse human rights, to collude with certainly illegal detention, arguably torture. KBR was one of the companies, used to be a subsidiary of Halliburton, was involved in building one of the Guantanamo facilities under the kind of its great track record of having built horrible maximum security penitentiaries in the States. But they're also one of the private providers who are doing the informal occupation of Iraq now. They're the largest contractor with the US government, and they've got, I think they've got off the web, they think at least 14,000 employees in Iraq providing logistical support to the US armed forces. We know that Iraq is that new model of occupation, the occupation by private company. We've withdrawn our soldiers, but look, all of our security advisors are here. And hell, they've got just the same weaponry, and just as many civilians are getting killed. KBR is one of those companies. So everyone here who marched against the war in Iraq and still is concerned about the deaths of Iraqi civilians should think, do I want those people policing my streets here? These streets that look all the different ways that the West Midlands looks like all the different kids who come out the FE colleges and get followed around by different security services. Do you want one of those security services to really be the police now? I don't want my sons to be on the streets of Birmingham on KBR are policing. They also, and I hadn't heard this until I was trying to find some notes for him, but one of the cases against them around they're doing all this servicing of the US Army in Iraq, it's a human trafficking lawsuit that there's 13 Nepali men who thought they're going to work in a hotel somewhere else in Jordan, suddenly find themselves in Iraq. I haven't read this until today, it's just find themselves in Iraq, all get kind of picked up. One of them gets beheaded on video, the others all get killed. And there's a case against KBR to say, well look, you traffic these people to their dangerous death. They didn't even know they were going there. They thought they're signing up for regular work in another place. You put them in that danger. Now they've kind of, I couldn't find the judgment on that. But it certainly stands as an allegation. And the one employee who survived says that he was held against his will for 15 months and forced to work at the base. So that's kind of modern day slavery as well. So that's KBR, that's one of our 6 shortlisted. You know, they've got great credentials to provide policing in the area. Serco, even more infamous in this country, I think, than KBR. People probably know that Serco do a lot of security and immigration detention work around the world. And some of the best information we have about Serco is about things that have been leaked in Australia, where they've been doing a lot of the immigration detention things. And there's a very famous leaked document which tells you how Serco staff were trained there, which is about how to cause maximum pain in a way that is legally defensible, which is all about, you know, I don't know, some horrible word for the thing you do to someone's nose that really nearly knocks them out, but it's still because of the limit in lasting injury it causes is legally defensible. And there's a whole kind of lovely list of how to use pain to defend, subdue and control refugees through punches, palm heel strikes, side angle kicks, front thrust kicks and knee strikes. Stun, distract, unbalance, cause pain, and use a striking technique to cause motor dysfunction, to control resistive behaviour, target pressure points, attack detainees' jugulars to cause them to fall over, employ a downward kick to the lower shin to cause high level of pain and mental stunning lasting up to 7 seconds, use batons to cause medium to high intensity pain and forearm muscle cramping with the manual advising
strikes to be delivered by a hammer fist. And all of this is about things which they think, well, you can get away with this within the law. And people also probably know, but in case anyone has forgotten, that the youngest person to die in custody in Britain was still, as far as I know, 14-year-old Adam Rickwood, was in a secure training centre run by, well, partly run by Serco staff, but he was detained by Serco staff. And they used that nose thing on him, and on a 14-year-old boy, and he went into his cell and killed himself. And he writes this horrible letter to his family about, I'm really sorry, but it's because this has happened. Now, this is the kind of training that company talks about being legally defensible in relation to migrants who allegedly have committed no crime, children in youth detention. What kind of training are they going to give to staff who might be able to take statements or gather evidence or deal with the public, and who might even be criminals, or they think are criminals? How does the value set and way of viewing other people that is demonstrated in that list of how you can legally restrain migrants fit again with the differently looking population of the West Midlands? Once again, I don't want my children walking down those streets. I don't want them to have pain to their jugular that causes them to fall over because they're resisting. Please don't let that be the case. Now, G4S, I'm not going to say loads on, because I know you're going to say, you know, there's plenty to say. But the one thing I'm going to say about G4S is that all of these companies, they've got a horrible global reach. You know, global security has become a way of being kind of big bad bully all over the world. And G4S also are one of the companies who are making lots of money out of the occupation of Palestine. And they've had, people have been trying to campaign around that. But they, by swallowing some other companies, they've become one of the largest private security companies in Israel, maybe the largest now that we've got these two other ones in. And they do lots of the security technology around the checkpoints and the apartheid wall, which are, for day-to-day life of Palestinians, that's what the open prison of Palestine is about. That how you are kind of constantly surveyed and checkpointed, that they give that technology, they arm that wing of the Israeli state. And there has been a little bit of success in trying to call them to account for that, which again I didn't know until I was trying to dig around some stuff. But I didn't know that in April of this year the EU decided not to renew a contract with G4S because of concerns about the company's role in equipping Israeli prisons, because Palestinian prisoners are held in violation of international law. And I think that's a really important thing for us to hear. I'm interested in the issue of Palestine, and I haven't read that bit yet. But to be refused a contract because you are providing a service that allows a state to do something in violation of international law, I think we need, for some parts of the population around here, say that. Because a lot of people feel very emotionally involved in the issue of Palestine in this city and region, that it touches people, and it's one of the ways of saying, look, even if you can't understand other things about G4S, look, this, even the European Union says this is a company that colludes in the illegal detention and torture of these people, and we don't want to do business with them. Even the Brussels bureaucrats don't want to give them contracts anymore. Why are we thinking of giving them our precious and dangerous and sensitive contract around policing ourselves? Now, I've already tried to say, look, these just are the kinds of companies that want to do business in the global security market, and there is a global security market. And I don't think we should pretend that it's about particular companies. I don't think we're going to find a nice fair trade brand of global security firm who'll do it nicely, like kind of eco-bear of global security. Because that's just...
G4S on the eco-bear.
Oh, do they? Yeah. I didn't even know that.
They do what?
They own the eco-bear. G4S do.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh, you see, that's now. You see, now you've really hit home to our audience. Not my proper washing up liquid. Oh. But I just think that's because we focus in our campaign material about how truly horrible these particular three companies are, it can make it sound as if we're waiting for the nice company to come along. But we don't believe there's a nicer company. We just think it's indicative of what the dangers are, that these are the kinds of companies who are going to bid for this kind of work. Because it's seen as this thing, you know, the global security market. And what they've been involved in before is war and detention of vulnerable people. That's a different ballgame from policing the general population. Now, the other quick two things I wanted to say was, and I'm sure the people in the room who've been more involved in this part of the campaign can say more, but despite questions from the campaign and others, West Midlands Police Authority doesn't seem to accept that a history of human rights abuse constitutes a reason to exclude a company from the shortlist. And they wrote back to a member of our campaign that we do not understand what is meant in your question by human rights impacts or human rights standards. Tenders will be judged on the published evaluation criteria, including the basis of an offer which is the most economically advantageous in accordance with the public contracts regulation. So two things. I don't know what you mean when you talk to me about human rights. And what matters is what's most economically advantageous within the law, within the most narrowly defined definition of the law. And people can say more about that. I think that, again, overlaps hugely what our colleagues from the unions have been saying. But it's on both sides. It's like, we don't care about you, the public, and we don't care about you, our employees. It's about how can we get this thing that states still have to do, but somehow squeeze some cash out of it. Now, that letter is signed for Derek Webley, who, as far as I know, is now standing to be one of the commissioners. So I think that needs to be asked to him again by anyone who ever encounters him in a public arena in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And it's worth noting, and I'm sure everyone here has noted, that even the Parliamentary Home Affairs Committee